but I have done 3 tours with Norman Public Schools, teacher, coach, director of secondary education, CTO, assistant superintendent, COO, and now superintendent. So I always say Norman either makes good decisions or bad decisions a lot, because they brought me back 3 times. And I'm very much appreciative and love being a part of this district and serving all of you and families. And so when I asked Jane, so what do I talk about this morning? I don't know if there are any topics in regards to the school that anybody would be interested in. That was a complete joke, just seeing if anybody's awake out there. I think there are quite a few things going on. Yeah, thanks, Katie. I see you over there. You know, quite a few things going on, and I'm going to share some things, and then hopefully you guys have some great questions for me, because you know, it's kind of a shotgun right now, wanting to share what you know, trying to figure out what you want to know. So real quickly, Norman Public Schools last year, for the first time in, I would say, about 5 years, saw a student growth of almost 150, 200 students. We had been flat or negative in our growth the years prior. Can't really attribute that to anything other than, you know, some of the surveys that have gone out in the...
We lost audio, Nick. Nick, we lost audio.
How's
Jane,
that?
can you get video on him?
I was done. Are there any questions?
Jane, can you get video on him?
Jane, if you'll put speaker view on, it should throw me up there. Or if on everybody's individual, you can.
Yeah, he's on. You're on speaker view, Nick.
Yeah, and if it's on your screen, if you've put it on grid view up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a thing that's speaker view, so that might help you as well. So don't know where I left off. Jane, can you help me out? What did we miss?
So we were at student growth for the first time this past year.
Yeah, so student growth, the last 4 or 5 years, we've had negative student growth. Last year, we actually had our first growth in that amount of time, 150-ish students, which is great, because those of you who know school funding, that's how we get funded, is based on student growth. So really appreciative of that. And for those families moving in, there was not one grade level, one school, one area that showed that growth. It was pretty much even across the district of our 24 sites. So really hard to pinpoint a why. I'm hoping it happens again next year, because those revenues would be helpful. Going into this next year, you know, the state obviously is having its challenges, and we're looking at about a $3.5 million cut next year in funding, which is going to be significant. Thankful for some of the federal dollars coming in, meets about half of that cut, helps us out. But, you know, the great thing is we've done a lot of planning. Our departments, our coordinators, such as Jane, you know, the last year, we really, not knowing this was going to happen, we really tightened our belt to try to build our fund balance for anything unforeseen, like a pandemic hits us. So we feel pretty darn good about next year. So that's just kind of a high level, 16,200-ish students in Norman. We serve about 16,200. We have about 2,000 staff, about 1,400 certified in that area. The rest would be support staff across the district. So a fairly large entity, and a lot of responsibilities there. Kind of shifting into March 13th last year, when our world changed, and we, you know, didn't come back to school after March 13th. You know, a lot did change, but we did try to continue services. And one of the things I want to share with you that hasn't really been shared in Norman for whatever reason, we've put it out there in all my newsletters, but, you know, we serve between 55 and 70,000 meals a week coming out of our school district. So that is significant. And that is something we continue to do, and we will continue to do until school gets back in session. Now it's dropped off significantly as families are doing different things this summer, but We are still serving free meals to any student or any person who comes in and says they're 18 years old or younger, or a public school student. So still trying to make sure we serve those families. The next thing is, obviously, we did not get to have an in-person graduation, and we did do a virtual one. I will say I think it was the best virtual one because we had a live surprise. We met our Miss Eschbach, a library teacher at Kennedy, at her home. Unbeknownst to her, we showed up. She was actually fixing dinner for her children, and I was incredibly surprised, but that was a live Facebook event, which was a lot of fun. You know, catching someone completely off guard, that was good. But we are doing an in-person graduation. I think it was March 14th. I sent out a video to our 20,000 plus people we serve, teachers and students, saying that I commit to doing an in-person. My team thought I was crazy, didn't know how we were going to pull this off or when, but I'm happy to say we will be doing that this Friday and Saturday at Harv Collins. Norman North will be Friday evening, and Norman High School will be Saturday morning, and then we have some contingency plans in case there is weather that interrupts those ceremonies. But really excited about that. We will have social distancing. We're working with a group that actually is taking care of actual tickets for us. So every family gets so many tickets, and so that we can maintain spacing in Harv Collins and do this the appropriate way. So just really excited to celebrate with the seniors and their families. You may see over my shoulder over there, I actually have a senior this year at Norman North. I think there's Jeff's on here, and I see some others that have seniors as well. And I cannot wait to see these young men and women that I knew back in the old Cleveland days, you know, or when they were little bitty. Yes, I see Polly there. To really see how they've grown up, and boy, have they changed. The young ones have grown into young men, or men now, I guess, and the ladies have grown into women, and just they have changed and grown up, and so proud of them, and look forward to seeing them Friday and Saturday. And I know the parents are excited to have that kind of capstone. And we tried to do this as quickly as possible, just because we do have students who are going into the service and they need to be able to celebrate this as well. And so we're working with them. So that's lunches, that's graduation. It's a little bit about the school. You know, going into the after March 13th, you know, we had to shift to an online platform. And I want to be completely clear. A lot of people are calling that distance learning. A lot of people are, you know, have different names for it, but what I call it is emergency education, emergency learning. By far not anything, and Jane can probably back me up, that we're like, wow, that was great. We're so proud of how that worked. It was truly an emergency opportunity, and those of you who are parents and grandparents that helped your kiddos through that, thank you, because it was tough for everybody. Reinventing what we have done in Norman for 130 years in about 5 days was incredibly hard, and getting everybody on top of that, teachers, parents, students, was tough. But we did it, and you know, a lot of it was because of the voters and the bond, and the last few bonds that we've been able to invest in technology and have devices, because I have a lot of friends in neighboring districts that are superintendents and administrators and teachers that they were just trying to find devices. Our issue was getting curriculum and making sure people had connectivity, or we got them paper pencil, where they were having to start with, okay, we don't even have devices to do. So really, really excited about where we were, but also want to thank, you know, the team. We're continuing to work going into next year. Because we're going to have to be prepared. You know, people ask, well, what's school going to look like next year? What's school going to look like next year? And a lot of districts have jumped out there. I'll pick on my friend up in Moore, Robert Romines, who jumped out there and said, hey, we may have school. We may have school with technology, or we may have school with technology. Okay, Robert, that's given. That's probably true. But what I want to say to all of you guys is we are going to have school with options. That's the best I can say right now. We have a task force of over 40, almost 50 people working on this right now that's made up of everybody from epidemiologists, medical professionals, to community members, parents, students, and just a true cross-section of different groups in our community that partner and serve and that are interested in our schools, so we can come up with that right way of doing things. And I mean, everything is on the table of, do we start school early? Do we end school in November like a lot of universities, and then do we provide everything in class, or do we provide some virtual? Do we have cameras in class and we're streaming if someone stays home? So everything is on the table. But what I want to say is our goal is early July that we have a written plan out to families and the community so people can start making choices. And my goal personally is that no matter where a family is on the spectrum, and no matter where the community and the state is with the pandemic and what's going on in our society, that we have a choice for you, that we have an option for you that will work for you. And if we don't, there will be that disclaimer: give us a call and we'll figure it out for you. And that's the way we've always done things in Norman from the time I started in early 90s till now. It's individualized when needed and as much as possible, but trying to provide the best possible solution for everyone. A couple of things we have implemented that will help as 2 learning management platforms, one for elementary, which is called Seesaw, and one for secondary, which is called Canvas, that if you're associated with the university, you know what that is. But that will make it really seamless for us and our teachers, students and parents. If we're in class, we use the same learning management platform, or if we have to pivot because of whatever's going on, nothing changes and it's seamless. So teachers, students, parents are still going to one place to get all their information, whether it's instruction, coursework, you name it, it is there. And so that's been a lot of our work over the summer. So with that, great things going on in Norman, excuse me, and there's not a one size fits all. And so like I said, I'm kind of shotgunning out there. I don't know what your questions are or what you're truly interested in hearing about, but we plan on providing a stellar educational opportunity for all our families. And I didn't mention this for this next year is we're also looking at where a student sits on the spectrum. As you know, we have a lot of families who move to Norman because of our special services programs, whether it's autism or multi-needs, but then also for our advanced programs as well. So we serve students from 3.5 years old to 22 years old that come to us with all kinds of backgrounds, and we want to serve them in all, however they come to us. One of the sayings I have is, I want every student who walks through the schoolhouse door to come with the same level of excitement, no matter their background, period. And that is kind of where we are. So, Jane, was that okay? Are there questions?
Yeah, that's perfect, Dr. Nick. Thank you. And so questions you guys have?
Or put them in the chat if you don't feel like saying them.
Yeah, so.
I have one.
Hey,
yes, Polly.
Hey. How are y'all planning to manage social distancing with students, especially elementary?
Yeah, $1 million question. It really is. And manage, it's going to be like herding cats.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is no solid answer out there. There's going to be everything from, desk separation to rotations, education with parents, asking parents to help us at home reinforce the rules and the expectations we have in place at school. People are asking, are you going to, with pre-K kids and 1-year-olds, are you going to make them wear masks? Okay, imagine that. How does that work? Right? And imagine that teacher. You know, you know, I think there's through this pandemic, people have really gained a higher level of respect than they already had for our teachers who manage 25, 30 kids at one time when families at home are trying to manage 1, 2, or 3, right? And that challenge. And so once again, with them all coming with different backgrounds. So we will have protocols in place, Polly. We will have standards, but we'll have to be flexible because especially your little bitties, your elementary, 5th grade and down, let's say, they're at, well, even middle school, they're at so many different maturity levels of understanding. And at that age, you know, I think about that's my favorite place to go because they just want to crawl all over you, snotty nosed and all, and you know, hug you. They just want loving and you know that attention. And you even think to a teacher. So you know, we teach kids about firemen coming into the home with masks on. There's a person behind that mask. It's not a monster. If your house is on fire, you know, don't be scared. Well, you know, at the early primary levels, kids look at your lips. They look at your, you know, your expressions and your mannerisms. They may not be as verbal as we are at our age, right? So they're looking for emotion to judge where they stand and where they are and, you know, that response. So even on the teacher side, do we have face shields for teachers or do we have masks for teachers? Or, you know, what does that look like? You think about a speech pathologist. Oh my goodness, they've got to show how their tongue is moved and their lips move to work with kids. So it's a challenge. As I said, Polly, the $1 million question, we will have guidance and it'll be, you know, a spectrum. Great
Thanks.
question.
Question, Jane.
Yes, Jack.
Jack?
I read, I guess I would call it an education opinion piece that I'd like your comment on. I doubt that it was a scientific study, but the opinion was that when school starts this fall, the children who are between 5 and 10 years old, particularly those both of whose parents work and they can't really sit there over the child while they're doing the distance learning, that these particular children will start out the fall 9 to 12 months behind on their education, even though it's just been a few months of education that they lost. So what would be your comment on that?
I would probably say it wasn't scientific, but probably based on a lot of fact. You know, there is that summer gap that we already experience through the summer. Those of you who have tried to teach kids who have gone away, I was a math teacher. Math is just like reading. If you don't do it every day, you kind of lose it. You know, you get it back quickly, but you lose it. And so you know, there is definitely going to be a gap. Some students, those families who stay engaged and for whatever reason they can, to your point, it may be, you know, they can't because of a job or whatever. Those students will be behind, but we will be meeting them where they are. We'll be assessing them and we won't leave any student behind, but that is definitely going to be a challenge we have to face, definitely, because you know, we do have an online option for our students, but I'll be the first to tell you, in person is what we go for. The reason we have an online school is, one, we have a lot of students who travel. We have students who are actors, students who are athletes, students who are all over the place. And then we also have outside, you know, forces as charter schools. And, you know, we understand families have choices. So we put that out there because our thought is if we can keep them attached, we have more of a chance of getting them back into the classroom. But Jack, we're truly going to have to really work through that. Our teachers are going to have to assess and meet them where they are, because there will be, I anticipate, a larger gap than we normally see, or drop off.
Dr. Migliorino, we have a question in the chat. It says, how can the district help elementary students in our socially disadvantaged schools, such as Kennedy, Lincoln, Wilson, who do not have computers or connectivity?
Yep. So computers and technology is not the issue. We've got them, you know, we've got computers that we can get to them. We did get to them. We were doing door drop-offs. I think we did 1,000 door drop-offs or something like that of technology devices. So the devices are not my concern. connectivity, is. Now, you do have families who just don't want connectivity too, because our partners, OEC and Cox, were providing free, and in some cases, hookups for people in those areas. And we didn't have everybody want to do that. But we will have hotspots, we will have accessibility, and we'll make that happen. The state just came out with a thing to help us as well, to offset some costs regarding to get, if we have to get access to kids. Now, for those families who don't have it or choose not to, just like we did this time around, we will get them a device, and we put everything on a thumb drive and deliver it to them so they don't have to have connectivity to move forward. Now, the challenge will be on that is, just like we're doing here, imagine a class and a teacher's giving instruction. They're not going to have the access to the live instruction and conversation. But that doesn't mean we won't have recordings of that we can deliver to them.
Wonderful, thank you. Scott, you had a question?
Yeah, there's a physician that I follow on Facebook, and he does this update every Sunday night. And he seems to believe, and he says, based on the research, that kids 14 and under seem to be at much lower risk of transmitting or receiving the virus. Not risk-free, but just much, much lower. And he seems to believe that it shouldn't be much of an issue starting school again. How does that compare with what you've heard from the medical professionals that you're dealing with right now?
Yeah, so I think, that's probably spot on with that. But in our schools, the challenge is if we don't have adults there, then we can't have school. And, I talked about our students and the age range we have of students. But also I have 150 of my teachers alone are over 65. I have a significant number of my teachers who have health issues, whether it's they're going through cancer treatments or they're asthmatic or they're, you name it. So that is the other side of it, especially at the elementary and, at all our schools, when they're face to face and having this interaction and everybody's moving past each other in an enclosed environment. You think about it, our schools, especially our secondaries, are larger than about 300 communities in this state, just in a confined area on one campus. So that is my concern, Scott, is, the students, yes, I believe whether it's the epidemiologists or just the different people that we've been working with, that, yeah, probably students, maybe they carry it, maybe they recover quicker because they're youthful and their immune systems, all those things. That's what I'm hearing. And I think that's great. But then I have the other side of it is I've got to make sure that I have adults there to facilitate learning. And so that's just as much of an equal concern. Fair?
Jane, if I could add a little bit to that, there was a scientific study out of 3 large pediatric hospitals in the New York, New Jersey area that tested every child, which they defined as between 5 and 19 years old, that came into their hospitals over a 2-month period. They found that 1% of them tested positive. It was actually 0.93, but just say 1%. And of those, half of them had no symptoms. Of the remaining 0.5%, half of those had minimal symptoms. So only 0.25% of the children that they tested over a 2-month period had any significant symptoms.
Yeah. One of the things we are going to do, and part of our plan is, request that families take their temperatures before you send your kid to school. But what we're finding out in today's age is a lot of families don't even own thermometers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether it's just, I'm not talking digitals, or I'm talking just an old, oral thermometer. And so those are the things we're looking at as far as student packets. Here's mom, dad, here's a packet that we need you to use. The other challenge we're going to have is this has always been this way, but mom and dad work. kids need to go to school. You are running a temperature, take some Tylenol and get to school. You know, that's, you know, temperatures aren't the telltale sign. And so, you know, we're all parents. We understand, you know, I'm a school administrator, but I'm also a realist. I understand where people are. I'm not ignorant to the fact that people are going to, some people will work the system but that's where, you know, we'll probably, you know, in the mornings after lunch have, you know, digital thermometers for the teacher to scan the room. If someone has a temperature, you know, we'll check on them, but it's not going to be foolproof. And, you know, back to Scott's question and Jack following it up is students are in probably the safest group amongst themselves. It's the Janes, the Nicks, the others that are in closed, confined areas with them that we have it. Plus, you also have to think, in our community, you know, we're 52% free and reduced lunch in our school district. 17, 18 years ago, we were under 17%. So we've had a vertical climb in our community. And so, you know, take that for what it's worth, but you have a lot of families living together, generations living together. And what are these kiddos going home to? What are they picking up and taking home? That's also something we're trying to be cognizant of.
We have another question, I think, from Taylor. You had your hand up. Do you still have the question, Taylor?
No, so sorry. That must have been an accident.
Oh, okay. Other questions, people or folks? Yes, no?
And guys, it doesn't have to be around. It doesn't have to be around Corona, C-19. It can be other things. There can be some positive ones too. And hey, Katie.
What about athletics? Oh, go ahead. What about the athletics?
Okay, who am I talking to?
John Buck.
Okay, I like finding a face and I'm not seeing. Okay, so what about athletics? Okay, so right now, you know, any of you who follow school athletics and school activities period, we're governed by a group called the OASA, Oklahoma Secondary Schools Athletic Association, OSAA. You know, they had a non-ruling a while back that basically said it's up to schools. So of what you do starting now. So literally, I called about 15 or 20 of large school superintendents and organized a Zoom call, and that's Union, Jinx, Moore, all of us got together, and we're all on the same page. And we did start outside activities. So we had a phased-in approach where we had a week of training for our staff members on how to clean, what to look for, and kind of our expectations. Phase 2 was bringing students in for fall sports. And I'm just talking sports. This could go to band or anything else, but I'm just going to talk sports. But it's the same. And so they could, for a week, in small groups, start doing conditioning. Because, you know, in athletics, just like band or anything else, your body, your mind, everything has to be conditioned. And it doesn't just happen overnight. So they could start outside conditioning. And then the next week, they could start small rotations inside and outside if they're lifting weights or they're doing different things, you know, film rooms, those kind of things. And so that's what we're doing right now. And the reason we have small groups, it's not necessarily because the contractibility. Our goal is, one, I'm using this personally as a measure on what's it going to take to clean a facility and rooms every single day constantly, because you know, we're talking about $2,000 or $3,000 a day additional cost per site of cleaning. Yeah, incredible. You know, so we're looking at this, and the other thing is, and we've had this happen, you know, if someone in a small group contracts or tests positive, well, we don't have to shut down the entire program. Just that small group gets quarantined for the 14 days or whatever it is. So we are doing rotation, small groups, not confined areas for a period of time. Now going into the fall, let's talk football. Let's talk volleyball, softball, you know, name it, just go down the list, marching band. Those are all things that, you know, right now we're moving that direction. But we have the same questions you're seeing on the news about will there be spectators? What happens if we have to travel to a place that doesn't follow the same rules that we do? What happens if there's a small community, unlike Norman, that has to play Norman and they come here, but in their community, they haven't had one, case? Are they going to be comfortable coming to Norman? So there are a lot of scenarios and variables there that we just don't have answers for, and we're just trying to take it one step at a time. Our goal is, we know social and emotional is a huge part of this, and part of that social and emotional is activities. Students have to have activities. They have to be engaged in something. Kind of like, that's why they want to come to school. That's what we're all about, being engaged. You guys are on this call at 7 a.m. because you want to be a part of a group, this social piece for a better cause, for a bigger cause. So we're in the same place. We want to provide it with caution, and we're just taking it one step at a time. That's the best answer I have.
Katie, did you have a question?
Well, it wasn't so much a question as I really wanted to circle back and stress what you said so eloquently about this is not an online learning platform. And I deal a lot with college kids, and when everything, took a hard left and it went from but in the classroom to now everything's online, and everybody's going, well, why am I paying all this tuition for an online class? And I said, hold the phone. This is not an online class. This is remote emergency instruction. This is, the superintendent or the president walking in and saying, I'm sorry, professor, who has chosen to live a life technology-free as possible. We are now requiring you to put your lectures online and make your, shift into your tests. And so I kept reminding my clients, let's have a little grace if we can, because everybody's doing the best they can under an emergency situation. Yeah. And I said, an online class is months of preparation and, front end loading of thinking long term. This was turn on a dime and do the best you can. Yep. So for those classes, whether they're high school, college, middle school, whatever, that will need to, out of some kind of necessity, continue that online. We've had a little time to beef things up, but I'm saying you're still going to have some resistance, and some people are doing the best they can better than others. Yep. But again, this is, an online class that's designed to be an online class is not what we've been exposed to.
For over 95% of our families, face-to-face instruction is the best. If you've ever tried to do any kind of online learning, the dedication, the structure you have to create for yourself, the independent study that you have to do is through the roof. I used to joke going to college, if I had the time, why do I need to go to college? Everything other than the social side of it, I could read it all. I could find it all on my own, but it's that structure. And what you miss is the social interaction and the networking and just opinions. But, if it's just content, that's, what is that? We can all find it on Google now. So yeah, thanks, Katie. And it was truly emergency learning. And you know what? Our goal is, it's not if, but when. I believe that whether it's a classroom or a school or a district has to shut down, at some point in time. And how do we pivot? What do we have in place that allows that transition to be not an emergency, but okay, this is where we are. Do we build that in from the beginning? So, I'll make this up. So please do not say this is what it is, but say, okay, Monday through Thursday, we're in class, but Monday through Thursday, if you have a temperature, you can Zoom in and watch your class live. But then on Fridays is distance learning day for everybody. teachers start to learn how to do this, students learn how to do it, and it just becomes part of it. And so if we do have a situation that comes up, well, we're just going to 5 Fridays in a row, or, you know, a week of Fridays. It's just the Friday way. And so those are some of the conversations we're having, because people have to be comfortable with these different teaching methodologies, and from the teacher side to the student side to the parent side. And so that's our challenge. And you know, it's not anything any of us learned in school. It's not anything especially looking in this room, none of us had this in school. That's not a knock on anybody, but none of us had this in school. And so we're trying to figure it out. And you know what? There are a lot of people out there telling us this is the best way to do it, but we're trying to figure out what's right for Norman Public Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Nick. That's a great answer. And thank you, Katie, for making that observation as well. As an educator, it makes me feel good that we're seen that way. Last question for you, Dr. Nick. And so if you can stick around for this one, Sandra Long-Pryor asked, what positives are we seeing with this disruption? I'm
going to say student voice.
Yeah.
Student voice. They are fine. You know, I jokingly sometimes say, if it wasn't for all the adults, education would be great. But we get in our own way sometimes. But student voice, the way the students are rallying together, and they're creating their own groups, and they're creating their own expectations, whether it's our young ladies at Norman High who are standing up for injustices, or it's our students, you know, coming to me and asking for different allowances to do different things and flexibility, or, you know, just all the ideas, because that's truly what drives us is what they want. But student voice has been incredible. You know, I have a student advisory that I still meet with, and just great kids and great perspective. So, and the opportunity to just sit back and listen has been a great positive too.
Well, we're out of time, so, but I'm sure we could keep you busy with questions for the rest of the morning. But Dr. Migliorino, I really thank you for being here this morning, and everybody else, and stay tuned. You know, I know Dr. Migliorino has weekly emails to the staff and families, as well as information on the NPS website.
And Jane, on those, those are sent to families and staff, but you can share them with your group. Okay. The messages are for everybody. Right.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that permission to do so. But thank you again so much. And everybody have a great day. And Michael, I don't know if you're around to ring the bell, but he's got a bell on his deck. So Michael, if you want to ring your bell if you're close, or just that's a big ding dong. So thank you all for being here this morning. Have a great day.